Hi there. I hope this finds you doing well on this gloomy Monday. Today is January the 7th, and I have had people who have wanted to do the No Spin Challenge in February. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And the questions have been, well, what can I buy and what can't I buy? And what do I need to know? And so I think sometimes when you live a certain way, you take for granted that people do know. And it made me realize that people don't. And if you haven't seen my previous videos, I would go back and look through all of those. Just go to my YouTube page, which if you're seeing this, you're probably on it now. It's just Courtney Butler Robinson. And you'll just want to kind of scroll through and look at the different ones on finance. And I would watch all of those because they're going to help you. I don't make any money off this. I do this because it's my passion. But I would highly recommend those. Some other things you can do. The main thing I would tell you is you need to identify your why. And if you haven't done that yet, it's so important. I've been really struggling with how to handle this. I did talk to my students yesterday, but I've been having some major health issues that have come up that have kind of blindsided me. And I was really just going to do the No Spin Challenge in February to be support for other people because I had been on a whole year of a No Spin Challenge. However, um, in light of all of this, I am feeling rather not worried about my finances because we're in a place where we have a year's worth of finances saved up or income saved up. My husband has a good job, but my husband also recently had to have some health. We've both had some health issues, let me just say it like that, and it has really put us into a place of thinking about like what's really important to us. And I know what's really important to me is love and health. Love for my family, love for my friends, my animals, and love for sharing and helping other people, and my health and his health. And unfortunately, some of the things that we're dealing with are very scary, and it's just put into light what's really important. So, the No Spin Challenge for me is also a way of simplifying my life because when you simplify your life, you can focus on what really matters. And let's face it, stuff doesn't make us happy. So the main thing is your why. You know, Jameson's always going to help me when I'm on these videos. He's right back here in his little spot. See, there he is. Um, Identify your why. And then you need to identify where you spend money every day. So if you start in February, we have a couple weeks now. Don't go whole hog and go spend on things you don't need. But think about, where do I spend money? If you're a journaler or you do your phone notes, start writing down things like, oh, I spent $200 at the Lancome counter, or I spent $50 at Walmart on crap I didn't need, or I was on Amazon. Start beginning to have an awareness about your spending. Now, I don't mean necessarily write down every penny, though that might be helpful. I swear, I feel like I've had a hair in my eye for 3 days. Um, it might be helpful if you're up for that. If you're up for writing down everything you spend for the next month, that would be super. If you're not, just kind of start to write down. I went to the grocery store. I went to J.C. Penney's or Dillard's, or I went to Walmart, or I took my kid for this, or I purchased this. This all also, you have to connect what you're doing and your why. So, for instance, one person, this has come up a lot. I have some friends who their hair care is very expensive. Their shampoos and conditioners are very expensive, and they've been kind of like, but it lasts me 8 months. Well, you also have to think on your return on investment. And it also depends on your why, because if you are suddenly find yourself a single parent and you don't, your income dropped from 100,000 a year to 30,000 a year, and you have 4 kids to raise, that's going to substantially change your decisions than someone who is just trying to cut their expenses because they have debt to pay. That first example was me 7 years ago. My income dropped from nearly $90,000 a year with my ex-husband to about $15,000 the first year, and then gradually got up to around 30 to 40, then 50,000. But when I was only bringing in like 15,000 a year, yeah, I mean, it got down to not quite Suave shampoo, but also there, because at that point, having a roof over my head was more important. Now, if you're spending $100 on a bottle of shampoo and conditioner, and that bottle of shampoo lasts you for 8 months, and you're not in that situation where you're going to lose your house or have to not be able to feed your children, you have to look at what adds value to your life. So, for instance, I've talked about this in previous videos. I don't use a lot of body care products, but one item I do use is $100. It's a face cream, and it lasts me for 6 months to a year, that one bottle of cream. Now, if I go out and every month I'm trying something at Walmart for $10 to $20, that's more money over the course of that year than using that one thing that lasts me. So you have to think about the quality, the value, the return on your investment. If you go under your sink and you have 50 bottles of shampoo and body products that you don't use, that's just throwing money down the drain. It would be better to have one bottle that was $100 or two bottles a year that were $200 than $400 or $500 worth of stuff you don't use. So you're going to have to really decide that and figure out your why. As you start to begin to notice your habits and the way that you spend, I would encourage you, if you are willing to. I love this little book, if you can see it. I know it's going to be backwards because it's mirror image. The Simple Living Guide by Janet Luers. It's old. There's also, I don't think there's any going on. I facilitate them quite often, but at least once a year. If you can get into a group like a Voluntary Simplicity group, which is like a book club, I'm doing one. It's not Voluntary Simplicity. It's one called Living Simply in a Complex World. I'm going to do that this spring. So even if you do this challenge and you want to go further into simplifying your life, that would be a really good one to do. I'm going to do that in Hot Springs, probably at the library, and the book is usually around $30. Last year, I got funding to pay for the books. I don't know if I'll be able to do that this year, but I will try. So that's the only fee. I've been listening to a book on my phone, which is the app is Hoopla. There's another app called Overdrive, and you go through your library to put them on your phone. It's like Audible or Kindle, but it's free, and it's called Soulful Simplicity. And that has been a great book, Soulful Simplicity by Courtney Carver. To me, none of this is really about money, because money has no power without a human being behind it making choices. It's about values. It's about how we live our life and what we choose to do with our money. Dave Ramsey, I was listening to him one time, and he said, money can build hospitals or it can build bombs. And so it's something like that. And when you think about that, I mean, money goes where you tell it to go. And if your money is going to put a roof over your head and put clothes on your body, that's what it's meant to do, right? Or to help pay for your medical bills or to take care of the less fortunate. But if your money is going to just buy, expensive pleasures that don't bring you any pleasure except in the short term, then you need to rethink that, because it's not bringing value to your life, and it's actually probably causing stress. Plus, the more that you own, it owns you. You have to store it. You have to take care of it. You have to live with the clutter. You have to get a bigger house, a storage building. So you have to really think about those things. So your task now is to think about your why, write down your why, and begin to notice where you're spending money, and begin the things that you purchase that you feel like are expensive purchases, but they're important to you. You have to look at your return on the value for those, and what is the why connected to that. In February, what we will do is, if you need guidelines on the No Spend Challenge, what I would suggest you do is make a budget. It doesn't have to be complex. Your bills, your rent, mortgage, utilities, if you have car payments or credit card payments, write down all your bills. If you're on a debt payment plan, don't get off the debt payment plan. Then you're going to make a food budget, a toiletry budget, and it should be reasonable but not excessive. If, like right now, I know food and toiletries is somewhere about $150 to $200. It's somewhere around $300 to $400 every 2 weeks for dog food, toiletries, food, and things like that. So you don't want to be like add to it or take away, because what happens sometimes is when you're like, well, I can't buy clothes for a month, well, then you end up buying extra treats and things like that at the grocery store to fill that void. And the process of this is not only to save money and reduce clutter, but to simplify your life and to deal with that uncomfortable feeling that you may have and figure out your why. If you're rushing in the morning to get to a job that you hate, and you're picking your kid up and you're not listening to your kid in the car, and you're aggravated with your kid or your husband because you're under so much stress, this is an opportunity to begin to recognize what might be causing you stress. Is debt causing you stress? Is having an overcomplicated calendar causing you stress? In February, you're going to just spend on necessities only. Wants versus needs. Just get down to wants versus needs. If you find something that you really, really want and you feel compelled and you start trying to justify it, I want you to write it down and then come back to it later and see if you still want or need it. You can always purchase it when the month is over if you really, really need it. But the point is to feel how that feels. So I hope this has been helpful in preparing you. I do want to share this with you. In the event of this, with these recent events of this healthcare scare that I'm going through, I'll just share with you that I've been told that I have some health problems and that they're very likely going to be chronic and possibly life-shortening. I don't know right now. I'm having to live with the finding all the different specialists to look and see, what's going on with my health. And I'm really in a kind of frustrated and angry state about that because I live a very healthy life. But the fact that I have simplified my life to the point where I don't have to go into work early except 2 days a week, and that's 9 o'clock. I mean, that's not that early. I leave at 9 o'clock. I have a heavy workload, but it's manageable. It will be actually a lot less in just a couple of months. I have gotten myself where all my debts are paid off except my mortgage. And I'm so grateful right now that I have done that. I'm so grateful that I don't have a lot of debt on me and I'm having health problems. I know even if I had to quit my job, which I don't foresee that happening, that my husband would take care of me and that we wouldn't be in a terrible shape and that we could make ends meet because we have a 1-year savings. We have all of our stuff is paid for. Everything we own is paid for except our mortgage, which is very manageable. So for me, the fact that I've done this has put me in a much better place with keeping unwanted and unnecessary agony off of me in a time when I don't need it. Some other things you could do is listen to the Minimalist podcast. I really like that one. I've got a couple of more that I've downloaded. Get on Instagram, follow the Debt Free Community, like anything that has to do with simple living. And I wish you all luck. Please keep in touch with me. I'm going to post this on Facebook and would love to hear from you what you're doing. And if you need any questions, I'm going to put this in the Resourceful Life on Facebook. And I'll also post on the Frugalarian on Instagram. I tried to change it all to the Frugalarian and it won't let me, so whatever. I guess there's some copyright issue. So I will talk to you all later. If you like this, thumbs up and like, because that helps more people see this content, which may be helpful for them as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.